So my name again is Jim Coyle. I am the president of the Gateway Regional Chamber of Commerce. And they told me that I had about 45 minutes to talk to you, but rest assured that I am not going to bore you for that long. But I did want to give you a little bit of background on what we do as an organization. So the Gateway Regional Chamber of Commerce, most of you are probably familiar with chambers of commerce. We are far and away the largest business association in the North Jersey, New York Metropolitan region. We have about 1,200 members, which between them represent about 350,000 employees. We are headquartered in Elizabeth and actually are one of the oldest business associations in this region. We were founded in 1911, and John D. Rockefeller was one of our founding members. So we have this long history of involvement with manufacturing in New Jersey. And we are primarily a business-to-business organization. So most of our members, we're still anchored as an organization by large manufacturing, utilities, transportation, and logistics, and then businesses that do business with those large businesses. So it's a pretty diverse group of members, but they primarily do business with other businesses. We do have retail members, but they are not the primary focus of the organization. I mentioned that we were founded in 1911. We were actually founded as the Elizabeth Chamber of Commerce. And then by the 1930s, we had expanded beyond the borders of Elizabeth, and we became known as the Chamber of Commerce of Eastern Union County. In the 1960s, we expanded more and became the Union County Chamber of Commerce. About that time, maybe a little bit later, someone that I'm sure most of you know, Joe Steiner, actually worked for this organization before he took over leadership of the suburban chambers of commerce in Summit. In the early 2000s, as we expanded beyond Union County, we renamed the organization the Gateway Regional Chamber of Commerce. This region, of course, is known as the gateway to the United States, and so we thought that that was a very appropriate name. Our tagline is the Chamber Without Borders, because we recruit members pretty much from anywhere. And so we have members from faraway places like Kentucky and Texas and the UK. Used to have a group from Malaysia that was a member as well. And so it's primarily geared to businesses that want to do business with our other members. That's why companies outside this region will get involved. Now, as Gateway, we are primarily a business service organization. So our job is to provide direct, tangible services to our members. And those fall into two main categories. One is marketing assistance. We help our members do business, sell their products, their services. And then also, because we are so large, we go into the marketplace and we negotiate programs on behalf of our membership to give them discounts for their business operations. These programs run the gambit from telecommunications and healthcare all the way to international shipments of containerized chemicals. So it's quite a diverse set of offerings for the membership. Now, when you look at the way that we're organized, we're quite a bit different. So even though we are a large regional business organization, we are also an umbrella organization. And under the Gateway umbrella, there are 10 different local chambers and business associations. Now, the reason that we do this, frankly, is because I'm not from New Jersey. I grew up in Colorado, but I actually moved here from Singapore. So I literally came halfway around the world to get to New Jersey. And when I got here, I discovered this really interesting thing called home rule. And so New Jersey is a collection basically of very small towns and municipalities. So the suburb of Denver that I grew up in is twice as large as the largest city in New Jersey, even though Colorado has half the population of New Jersey. So, what you see in New Jersey is this focus that is really, really hyper local. And people have a tremendous amount of attachment to their own town. But the reality also is that in the business world, to have a truly viable organization, you need a lot of good dues paying members. And so there aren't very many towns in New Jersey who can really support viable business organizations. And so we decided to start setting them up under the Gateway umbrella. So we have chambers in Clark and Linden and Roselle Park and Kenilworth. We're getting ready to open one up in Watchung. We also have two ethnically based associations under our umbrella. One is the Irish Business Association with a name like Coyle. We had to start that. That was our first group. And we also have under the umbrella the Black Business Alliance. That's one of our newer groups. They're about 2 years old, and they are growing very, very rapidly. And that's an interesting group because it is the one group that really deals with very small Black-owned businesses. And so we put a lot of effort into supporting that group, providing technical expertise for their membership to really help those businesses get going and in this past year survive what has been a very, very tough year for businesses. We also have under our umbrella the Gateway Warehouse Association. Probably most of you have noticed that pretty much every place you drive now, you're going to see a new warehouse going up. New Jersey has, I believe the number is over 1 billion square feet of warehouse space now. So we are the most densely warehoused region in the United States and maybe in the world. Warehousing is the fastest growing industry in New Jersey, and it is far and away the largest employer at this point. And it is a business that is continuing to grow and will continue to grow very, very quickly. So we represent over 4,000 warehouses throughout the state of New Jersey. And then we also have the Gateway Hospitality Alliance, which is geared towards the hospitality industry, restaurants and hotels primarily. But really, what I want to spend my time talking about today is one of the areas of really major concern to us. And this is not new. This is pretty much an ongoing concern that the chamber has had. But that is we have a very broad focus on a prepared workforce. Our businesses need well-trained and prepared employees, pretty much, frankly, at all levels, but most critically with very defined skills. And, for decades, frankly, we are finding that fewer and fewer young people are developing these skills. And even so you have a lot of kids coming out of high school who are not going forward, but they never really get any skills other than kind of entry level type training. And you also have a lot of people coming out of college and they don't have skills either that are applicable to the workforce. A number of years ago, I was invited to attend the graduation of Elizabeth High School. And this is before Elizabeth broke up the high school into 5 different academies. So at that time, it was all one high school, and it was the largest high school in the United States with over 5,000 students. So when you go to the graduation, it takes a long time for the graduating class to march in. So I was sitting up on the dais, and I was sitting next to the chairman of the Board of Education, and I looked over at him and said, wow, you must be really proud. This is the largest graduating class in history from Elizabeth High School. And he looked at me really with teary eyes, and he said, no, I'm not proud. Less than 25% of these graduates have any place to go. Only 25% are going on to college or some kind of trade school, and that means 75% we are turning out onto the streets. They have no job skills, they have no life skills, and we have not prepared them. And it was a really dramatic telling of a problem that is extremely widespread. And as I say, one that is of great concern to the chamber, to our members. Now, one of our activities as the chamber that Alan alluded to is our Gateway Education Committee. And so we work with the local school districts as well as Union County College and Kane University on programs and awareness to try to get a better understanding of what is going on out in the real world. It's very frustrating for us because we see schools being very good at preparing young people for the next stage of education, but not so great in preparing them for life, and especially for getting a job. So most of you, like me, probably started working as pretty young teenagers. And so by default, you got a lot of job experience by the time that you went to college and hopefully developed skills. Now, when I graduated in the mid 1970s, pretty much didn't matter what kind of degree you had. You could go out and you could get a job. That's no longer the case. And so many kids come out of school, they have degrees that really are not of much value in the business place. And we spend a lot of time trying to educate educators on these kind of facts so that they don't send young people into wrong areas of study. Now, what happens when one of my members does have a kid that graduates with, say, a degree in sociology or a double major in English and Spanish, those kids very often end up in my office because they can't find a job. And they're really angry. They've got a lot of debt, and best job they can find is working as a receptionist in a doctor's office. They're mad at their parents for not telling them that, following their dreams and their passions was not going to necessarily get them a job. And so I spend a tremendous amount of my time kind of retooling them, talking about opportunities that they can pursue and career paths that they may not have necessarily thought were going to be open to them. But, really, we want to get more young people focused in on developing skills. And so I spend a lot of time going into different high schools, talking to young people, frankly, about what different jobs pay and, what the difference between what a truck driver can get paid or a welder can get paid. And the amounts are really quite phenomenal. Welder at the Phillips refinery in Linden will make about $150,000 a year. An 18-year-old can get a commercial driver's license and be earning $60,000 to $80,000 a year pretty immediately driving locally. Best return on investment that you have in education is a CDL. So one of the things that the Education Committee started probably 50 years ago. So I've been doing this job for 25 years. I'm the longest lived Chamber of Commerce executive in the state of New Jersey. But one of the things that my predecessors actually started with the Education Committee was a scholarship program. And each year we raise money from our members and we give out 15 to 20 scholarships. And we really focus the scholarship on the C-level student, the young person that has no interest in going to college or probably isn't going to get in, but really needs to develop some skills to be able to go out and get a job and start supporting themselves and, hopefully a family and have a good life ahead of them. So this program is geared towards young people going on to career and technical education. Most of the scholarships are given out to very technical training. We send kids to cosmetology school or culinary arts, welding, computer technology, a lot of different types of skill. Of course, commercial driver's licenses are one of my favorites, and that is another scholarship area that we support. But we really want to help the kids that nobody else cares about. So as I say, the membership raises enough money every year to give out about 15 to 20 of these scholarships. We're actually looking at expanding the program, and in addition to continuing to work with new high school graduates, to work with people who later on in life have come to the conclusion that they just don't have the skills they need to have a successful life. So, the 25 to 30-year-old who thought they were making a lot of money working in the grocery store when they were 18, but now find that it is not enough to support them and their family. And so they want to go back and become an auto mechanic or become a plumber. And so we're looking into the possibility of extending the scholarship program to support them as well. Now, one of the things that goes along with this scholarship, and this is something that Alan is very active in, is that we don't want to just give these young people some money and send them off to school and hope for the best. And so we have numerous members who volunteer each year to be ongoing mentors for each of the scholarship recipients. So pretty much everyone who gets a scholarship also gets a mentor for life. Alan is a mentor to a number of young people through this program. It's really quite nice because, one of the problems that everybody has when they're young is not knowing how things work. So if you compound that by coming from a disadvantaged family in a disadvantaged community, what do you know about networking? What do you know about presentation skills? And what do you know about the things that need to be done to make you successful in the workplace? So our mentors work with these young people throughout the time they're in school and beyond. You'll have scholarship recipients calling up their mentor 5 years later saying, I'm thinking about changing jobs. What do you think about this? How should I do it? What should I look for? Or I want to get that next promotion. Can you give me some advice on how to position myself? So a lot of mentoring goes on an ongoing basis with these young people. But what I really want to kind of stress here is that it is really incumbent upon all of us because while our children may be grown, there are grandchildren and neighbors' kids, and communicating that message that the purpose for school is to prepare you for life, and that when you come out of school, you need to be able to get a job, and a job that is going to take you where you want to be, is something that we need to really stress within all of our families, because it all starts really at the kitchen table. And the parent who says to their child, oh yeah, pursue your passions, and the world is going to be open to you, usually ends up with a very disappointed kid. The parent that says, when you get to be my age, you're going to have bills to pay, and you need to earn an income to be able to do that. And what kind of things are you going to do? What kind of job are you interested in that is going to give you the kind of lifestyle that you want? Those are the more relevant and important conversations to have with young people. So, that's kind of the background on the chamber, and again, what we are doing to help young people get started on career paths. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Jim. So we'll take questions using the usual raised hand protocol, except Alan Havison gets to wave his hand in front of his camera because he doesn't know and find that icon. So Bill Tittle, go ahead, unmute yourself and you can be the first.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Really important subject. I thought it was just me getting old, looking at my nieces and nephews and saying, hey, how are you going to support yourself? It seems to be a cultural problem. Maybe I don't get it. When I was growing up, it was obvious that you had to support yourself, and you had some way of earning a living. You might want to be a poor artist, and that's fine, but you knew what you were doing. Do you think it's a cultural problem that a lot of parents today, because I put the thing on the parents, kids don't know. I think it's a cultural problem that, or what were your thoughts on this? You've seen a lot.
No, I agree with you completely. And I think that it happens in two places, and you're absolutely right. It happens at the home. Now, of all the people on this call, how many of you sat at the kitchen table with your kids and said, Johnny, my goal in life for you is to get a factory job, or Susie, I want you to be a truck driver or work a machine in a factory. No parent really wants their kids to do kind of manual labor, even though manual labor is absolutely necessary, and it is often very, very highly skilled and very rewarding in both terms of fulfillment and compensation. So it absolutely starts at home. I think that also partially because of our income levels, it's not as necessary for kids to go out and start working at a young age. When I grew up, you could get your driver's license at 16, And I knew that at 16, I had to buy my own car. So I started working when I was 12, so I could save up enough money to buy a car when I was 16. That was important to me. One of my sons, who is now 27, still doesn't have a car. So, you know, he could care less about that. And I go into classrooms at technical schools and I say, how many people have a driver's license? And, 20 people in the room, maybe one or two hands will go up. And I sit there and I think, how are you going to get a job if you don't have a driver's license? What are your parents not telling you? Why is this not important to you? And it's because, they've never really had the need. And of course, there is Uber and Lyft and other alternatives for them. But if you want to get a job in a warehouse, you're going to need a car to get there because there is not public transportation. But then I think that it's also compounded in the education system. Now, again, when I was in junior high and high school, I was required to take all kinds of shop classes and to learn how to use tools. I was taught how to write checks and how to develop a budget and how much things cost. All of that was taken out of mainstream schools. And in fact, we had to fight very hard in the early 2000s to get a statewide requirement to reintroduce financial literacy into high schools in New Jersey. And finally, we did get legislation passed, and now all kids are required to have a pretty de minimis amount of financial literacy. But I think back at the 2008 crash and how many people got caught up, signed mortgages that they were totally unqualified to sign, had no idea how these financial structures worked, and then got caught. And I'm wondering how many going to happen to this time with the current housing bubble. But I have a master's degree in economics from Cornell and work with people throughout the financial industry. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand. And yet, you have these kids coming out of high school or out of college with very, very little expertise. I have a son who is getting a PhD in economics and finance right now. He's in his PhD program, and he'll get an insurance bill that he doesn't know how to deal with, and he calls me. And I think, at your age and your level of sophistication, you should know how to handle this. I don't tell him that. I do help guide him through that. But at all levels, people are not being told that when they get into the real world, they're on their own, and that they need to make enough money to be able to survive and to thrive.
Yeah, thank you. John Tomaszewski.
Yeah, one little comment is a lot of reasons why the kids don't find jobs nowadays, because let's face it, all the good manufacturing jobs are no longer in this country. They've moved somewhere else. So it's not like the old days where you get a job when you're in college and make enough money to pay for college. But my question is, you're an organization. How do you get your finances? Is that from government sponsored things? Is it donations? Do everybody does membership fees? How do you manage to exist?
So Chambers of Commerce are membership organizations, and our revenue comes through dues from businesses who are members. So we as an organization represent the interests of the business community, and any business can join the organization, and we will provide them services that we offer. Now, in addition to the Gateway Regional Chamber of Commerce, we also have the Gateway Scholarship Foundation. And the foundation, the chamber is a 501c6 business league, but the foundation is a 501c3 charitable organization. And so when our members make contributions, or when other people make contributions to our Gateway Scholarship Program, those are direct contributions and they are fully tax deductible. We do not receive any public funds for our organization. And the reason for that is because quite often we have an adversarial relationship with different government agencies, and the business community finds it valuable to have an independent organization that can speak on their behalf when new regulations or new taxes are being proposed. And we will let government and other people know our stance on those. But just one other comment real quickly. There are in this area a lot of manufacturing jobs. In fact, my members are dying for new employees. Blue Apron, which is a meal kit business, has their largest plant in Linden. And if they could find 350 people to go to work there, they would do an entire new shift. Kerry Manufacturing in Clark is desperately in need of people. The refineries and chemical companies in Linden all are looking for people. So manufacturing jobs now tend to be really highly skilled. It's not kind of assembly line type work, but those jobs are definitely still here, and they're actually expanding.
Thank you. Rich Jager.
Thank you very much for the work that you do to line those students up with real jobs. One of the things that's a bit of common wisdom these days is that you're going to have, pick your number, 10 to 15 different jobs during your lifetime. And I'm thinking it's wonderful that you get these students to get some education, so they've got some skills, so they can get some job. How do you think about, how do you deal with that fact that, well, the skill sets required may change, and they may have to change and change greatly, and maybe your mentoring works into that, but I appreciate your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so not too long ago, I went back and counted all of my jobs, and this is my 19th job, and I have been here for 25 years. So early in my career, I did move around a lot. I think that moving really helps you develop new skills. When you go from one thing into another, you're going to have to learn new things. You're going to have to meet new people. First business that I started was with my older brother. I was 14, he was 16. We bought an old pickup truck, stole some equipment from my father, and started a sod installation business in Colorado. My brother is now the largest sod farmer in Colorado. And so he took that kind of teenage business and built it into a very substantial business. But, the key in life in dealing with change is to keep learning. And that's really something that I think is very important. And when I go into a group and talk about, the keys to advancing in the workplace, the one that I really stress is to keep learning new things. And I'm, frankly, pretty disappointed in most people, because when they get out of school, they stop reading. And, I think there are, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but the number of people after they have graduated who read books is minuscule. And yet that reading, that constant learning is absolutely critical. And it gives you the mindset to be able to deal with new things. When we started this call, Paul was talking about different Zoom releases and how a couple of people need to get upgraded. And the fact that you're still interested in doing that, and that, you have someone like Paul to help you through, just keeps your mind open, keeps it working. But if you come home every night and you just sit down and binge on the next Netflix series, when something does go wrong, you're not going to be well placed to deal with it. Second thing that I think that people forget is how important networks are. And obviously, you all have a really terrific network here. I'm absolutely amazed at how supportive of each other you are, down to the point of, knowing who's in the hospital and what kind of treatment they're having. And that really says a lot. But more than that, it's really important, because if you stay connected with people, when something does happen, you have somebody to turn to who can help you out. But you're also right. The mentors are there to serve that role as well. But we really do encourage people to go out and build a network, meet people, develop relationships, find people you can trust. I'm lucky that I have the job where I know everybody, and pretty much anything that I need or anybody else needs, I know where to turn to.
Thank you.
Rich. Let me interject a quick follow-up question, since you're just talking about mentor. And before you said that you actually either sponsor mentors or create mentorships to come about. When Margaret McMenamin was speaking to us about Union County College, a lot of guys are getting very excited about that and wanted to sign up as mentors. And she said, no, well, we can't take volunteer mentors. In fact, we have insurance issues and blah, blah, we need training. But is your organization, suppose some old guard member wanted to get involved in mentoring a student, could they approach you? How would they do that?
Yeah, they could talk to me, they could talk to Alan, because that's exactly what Alan does. Alan obviously ran manufacturing operations for a long time, had a very successful career, now wants to give back. So he joined the chamber, got very, very much involved in the education committee. He is so generous that he's one of the largest contributors to the Gateway Scholarship Foundation. And he serves as a mentor and has some really terrific insight. Now, one of the reasons that we can do this is because we're dealing with older kids. So our kids are 18, and so they are adults by that point. If we were sending people into schools, it would be different. There would be different things that we would have to worry about.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say that I'm surprised to learn that the Chamber of Commerce has such a program and such a major part of what you do. And I'm very pleased to hear it. So good work.
Well, thank you.
Mitch, you're next.
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much for what you guys do. And I wanted to just keep digging a little bit on what you were talking, and then Paul just asked a little bit more. And maybe Alan is the one to answer this. How many, give me some numbers about how many mentees you guys have and how many mentees per mentor, and time commitment. Is this something you do a couple hours a year, a couple hours a week? And, you know, and I guess also, rather than just all facts and figures, what about the emotional commitment? I assume at some point this becomes like a father-son kind of a relationship. And you know,
well,
Jim, you answer what you want and then pass it off to Alan.
Yeah, it's so first, just on the numbers, we give out 15 to 20 scholarships a year, and we have a pool right now of 5 to 6 mentors who work with them. So each person is getting assigned, say, roughly 3 people. I'm sorry, my phone just started ringing, and wanted to put it on do not disturb. So you know, the interesting thing about being a mentor is that it can be extremely frustrating, because not everybody is up for advice. And again, you know, think about your own kids and trying to I see Rich laughing there. He must have had some talks where he tried to give his kids advice and they would not accept it. But you know,
he's the only one among the members who's had problem with that.
but you know, there is this issue, because a lot of the young people don't even understand what a mentor is. They don't understand what a network is. They come out of backgrounds where these things are not discussed. And so we have some who embrace it and continue to embrace it, others who will kind of show up for the first couple meetings, but then you never hear back from them. And so there are times where, as they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that becomes very frustrating. On the other hand, when you do get someone, and you know, throughout my career, I have had a lot of mentors and a lot of role models, and at times they didn't even know that they were mentoring me, or that I looked at them as a mentor or as a role model. But they had such profound influences on my career and on me as a whole person. So when you get into a really good relationship, yeah, it does become extremely close. And you know, for the young person that takes advantage of it, you can open so many doors and show them so many things that they didn't have the ability to learn or see on their own. So it can be really fulfilling. In fact, I will tell anyone that is the most fulfilling part of my job. You know, I'm at a stage in my career that I've got a few years left, but I'm not looking to, you know, move on to the next opportunity, or this is kind of the end of the line, and I'm financially secure. I married really well, and my wife did very good. But yeah, it's always a great thing when you can say that. But so the most important thing to me now is helping people, and I get a lot of satisfaction when I can take that young person who has a college degree and has, you know, $100,000 in debt and has really no job prospect, and sit down with them and kind of work up a plan, and then make a few phone calls, get them a couple interviews, and usually a job. It's very fulfilling when that happens. And boy, then when you see their parents, you are golden. They just absolutely love you when you can get their kid a job.
It's a surrogate parent thing. And I want to push back just a little bit on the issue of them not knowing about mentors and networking, because, and I'm going to take a specific example that all the kids do these days, and that's video gaming. They clearly get mentoring from somebody as they're going into a new game and they're learning the levels and so forth. And they have a network, and often it's worldwide, of people that they schedule a 10 o'clock Sunday morning, they're having their video game session. So there are networks and there are mentoring and so forth. It's just different than what we're used to seeing, and maybe not so much involved with career and making money, although some people make money off of video games and professional video gaming. With that, well, let's have somebody else ask a question. Thanks, Jim.
Mhm.
Okay.
Who's up?
Jim, I believe I'm up. This is Steve Varley. Thank you so much. You talked about welding as being one occupation, for example, that youngsters could make a very good living in. I'm curious, do you get much pushback or resistance from the trade unions, which traditionally have controlled the apprenticeships for such jobs? I do recall that back in the day, for example, you couldn't become an operating engineer unless you had a family member who was an operating engineer. Has that situation changed?
Oh, it definitely has. And, I can't say that we work closely with the unions, but we do work with them because so many of these programs are union supported. Not all of them. You can go out and get a welding certification without doing it through the union. If you are working on a job site like Phillips 66, you will join the union to do that. But these unions are so desperate for people that, if you have a strong interest in doing this, they will train you and they will help you get jobs. So the one that is really interesting is the longshoremen's union, because that one was considered for years to be the most closed of all the unions in this region. And they are, again, recruiting anybody who will come because not enough people are coming. And people who work at the port make a lot of money. Moving those big containers around, you are very, very well compensated for it.
Bill Tittle.
Yeah, a follow-up question specifically on your criteria that you use for granting scholarships. And the reason I'm asking this question is my church gives some scholarships and I was on the committee. And academic achievement alone was not an adequate criteria from my point of view. We had an applicant. He was kind of a mediocre student, but he was a great kid. He had great character and respect for values and stuff like that. But he had this older sister who was a superstar academically. And his whole life, he was told, why can't you be like Susie and stuff? And so we gave this kid a scholarship because what we saw was potential, but he hadn't found himself yet. So how do you do it?
This is a constant source of pulling back and forth. And so the way that our scholarships are reviewed are, well, first we have an application that everybody who applies fills out. And then there is a committee from the education, a subcommittee of the education committee that actually does the review of the scholarship applications. And I think Alan has worked on that in the past. So they make the decisions. And, frankly, sometimes they make the wrong decisions. And then the foundation board comes back and says, no, we don't want to support a kid who wants to study sociology, no matter how good their grades are. We want to support the kid who doesn't have good grades that really needs some skills to get a job. And that is what, before we have the subcommittee, the review committee break off, it's something that I go over with them, just that philosophy that we're not looking for the best and brightest. In fact, quite the opposite, because the best and brightest is going to be taken care of anyway. They've got a lot more opportunities. Several years ago, the committee gave out a scholarship to a young woman who was going to study biomechanical engineering. So it's a career-oriented path. But she also had a full ride scholarship. She went to Cornell. So we gave her some additional money. And I personally thought that was a mistake, because she was among the best and brightest. She was already set. And, we need the kid who doesn't have those kind of opportunities. Now, the hardest part of this, though, is getting the right kids to apply, because who applies for scholarships? Kids who are going to college, and so we have to go every year, and frankly, we don't even bother with Summit and Westfield and schools like that. But we go into Elizabeth and Linden and Rahway and Hillside and Plainfield and say, we want your C-level student that needs a job, and we want them to apply. Now, these are kids that, have always just kind of coasted through. So filling out a scholarship application is problematic. So we will get in, in a normal year. This year was way down, but in a normal year, we'll get in 80 or so applications for our 15 to 20 scholarships that we award. And we'll have to throw out a lot of them because, they're kids going to four-year programs that really don't meet the philosophical underpinnings of this program.
Tony Canone.
Hey, Jim, thank you very much for your talk. You cover an awful lot, but I noticed one thing you were saying is that you can't get enough people to apply for the jobs that are there. From high school on, a lot of these kids are dropping out because they've either gotten a record, or they've gotten they're addicted to something. Is there anything in your programs that could say, all right, we'll hire this kid and train him and try and cure him at the same time, or try and help him at the same time?
Yeah, not in the things that we do. There are other organizations that certainly provide those services. But I will say that right now, the job market is so tight that unless you're a mass murderer, you're going to get interviewed. I mentioned earlier that Blue Apron would hire another 350 people at the blink of an eye. The warehouses are all desperately in need of people, and literally for the driving schools, the only two crimes that will disqualify you from getting a CDL is being a pedophile or being a murderer. Otherwise, I don't care, which kind of amazed me that, you give someone with a burglary conviction a truck loaded with, $500,000 worth of merchandise. But again, the job market is so tight and people are so desperate. And as I talk to our members, so for the past year, we've been running job fairs because our members, mostly in the logistics industry, are desperately in need of people. Now, everyone down to and including me are trying to hire people and we just can't find them. I ran an ad on Indeed, and I've run this ad before. And usually I'll get 400 or 500 responses to it, most of which are not remotely qualified for the job. But this time, after having it run for a month, I have had 10 applicants. And, so it's just incredible what is going on out there. And, as people become more secure in going out, and as very, very generous unemployment benefits start to wane, I think we will see more people coming back to work. But certainly right now, anybody can go out and get a job that wants one.
Okay,
Thank you, Tony.
glad to hear that.
So Alan Havison,
Just to go back to what I think it was Mitch who asked about the numbers of scholarships this year. We awarded 12 scholarships, and I know we had more applications, but I don't remember what that number was. But I can tell you that the ones that we did award this year were primarily towards, or all in fact, to students who were going into this technical skills workforce. We have nursing, which is a need, cosmetology, graphic design, ultrasound technician, radiology, graphic arts, technology, again, nursing, welding and fabrication, automotive service management, textile engineering, graphic design again, and airline and auto mechanics. And some of the schools that people go to are trade schools. From time to time, we've seen applicants go to, there's an aeronautical maintenance school up at Teterboro. And I think last year or 2 years ago, we had a student go there. There was one also going to work for one of the airlines at Newark Airport, and he was already got during his school year, got a job with a machine shop in Elizabeth. And most of the kids do maintain jobs, part-time jobs, in order to raise some money. Most, if not all, are they are first generation Americans and looking to go forward in life. And, our country was founded on people coming from all different parts of the world with all different kinds of cultures. And many of the people, young people coming in, their parents, they want their children educated. As when I look at the applications, what turns me on the most are their personal presentations and who they are, where they're from, and what they want to accomplish. And that says a lot. As far as the mentoring effort this year, we have 2 mentors for every student. And personally, I've reached out to the 2 mentees that I am working with, and plan to reach out because we're going to, this year, we want to let all the students know specifically who the mentors are. And I will be reaching out to them. This time of the year, it's kind of difficult to get a response from these kids because it's the end of school, the graduation parties and the such. So we are always hopeful as we get towards the end of June and early July that there will be more response. Last year, we had initially a very good response. We met with the mentors, with the mentees. We had a get together in Elizabeth at the Gateway headquarters, and we served donuts, cookies, and drinks, and talked to them about the soft skills that they would need to begin to move forward. Only the disappointing part of it, and I think one of you touched on to it, is, and I think, I'm not sure who it was, might have been in Jim's comments, is that they don't understand, I think, they don't really understand the value of a mentor. And I think maybe we, the mentors, have fallen short in not being able to find the right terminology, the right words to encourage them to work with us. I've been fortunate that I've had a few who have started with me, but towards the end of the summers, they seem to fall off, and of the summer, they seem to fall off, and then really nothing. This past year, we did have one who spoke at a graduation presentation that we had, who talked about the value of the mentoring and the value of the Gateway Scholarship and the people. So it's an ongoing effort that we continue to do. One of these days we'll get it right. We would like to have more mentors. We'd like to have more people on the committee who are doers, who will put the effort forward and do what they can to educate these young people, because they really are the future, and we have to let them know that. Unfortunately, their family backgrounds are such that they come from families, some split up, some where both parents work, and certainly I don't have to tell you that not all people make enough to really live on, and they exist. So it takes a big effort. And if we want a better future for ourselves and certainly for them, I see it as part of my responsibility to work a little bit harder to encourage them to get more of an education. And I'm partial to what the community colleges offer and the trade schools, because quite honestly, one of the reasons that I had to sell my last business was that I couldn't find a machinist, or machinists, and that's a problem. And there are plenty of opportunities for young people who have a desire, a fire in the belly to grow and learn and do. And we just have to find those students, and they're there. And so I hope I answered that question, and that how important it is that we do something in one way or another, all of us, I guess, to support the efforts of not only the foundation, but our churches, our temples, our community college, the Lions, the Rotaries, because they all offer scholarship programs. And I suspect that all have decent or good requirements. And it's something that I'm going to continue to work for and contribute to, because it's our future. So, but if anybody has any questions, wants to know anything more, or even get involved with the Chamber and their Educational Scholastic Foundation or a committee, you can always get involved with the foundation. But as far as the committee is concerned, if you got a little fire and you got a little strong commitment to do something, then we're interested. So, and I'm speaking for Lynn Crystal, who's the chairman, and for Jim, who's the real boss. That's how I feel. Anyway, if I can help you in any way, let me know. That's all I want. I think all I wanted to say at this time.
As I mentioned, Alan has been just an absolutely fantastic addition to the Education Committee and a very generous supporter of the foundation. And he did all this after he retired. He was not a member previously. So it's been a great opportunity for us to take advantage of his expertise and his passion.
Jim, this is Ron Hoke. I'd like to thank you for a very interesting and enlightening discussion on some of these issues that many of us were not even aware of. I'd like to follow up on the comment that you made about the need for continuing self-education, networking, and so forth. And in contrast, the fact that a lot of men who are working that could use those kind of opportunities and rather spend the evening watching Netflix, if he had the option of tuning in to a Zoom meeting, similar in many ways to the question and answer session that we're engaged in right now, that would give him an opportunity to meet and talk with not only experienced experts in the field like yourself, like a representative of the community colleges, as representatives of the trade school, and other people that are in the same situation as he's in. Instead of watching Netflix, he would have the opportunity of doing some of these things. He could do them from his home in the evening without the need to go somewhere else. He'd have the opportunity not only to talk to experts, but to his fellow men who are fellow workers who are involved in the same issues, having the same problems. It would seem that now with technology as available as it is, especially with younger people, that this would give an opportunity for people to look into some things along these lines.
No, I
I
think you're
personally
absolutely.
like that idea. Sorry.
Go ahead, Ron. Jim, what were you going to say, Jim?
Oh no, I think Ron is absolutely right that a lot of the new technology will provide opportunities. People have to be encouraged to use them, and it's sometimes difficult to be self-motivated unless you kind of have this culture that promotes it. You know, when I lived in Singapore in the late 80s, early 90s, they had a nationwide campaign called Train Up and television advertisements, and it was all about continuous training for people involved in manufacturing jobs, because they wanted to move from assembly type jobs to very high skilled, very technologically advanced manufacturing. And it takes that kind of initiative and commitment to do it. And technology certainly makes it easier. I think though that we also all do better when we're in person. And my guess is that the old guard will be meeting in person again pretty soon. Zoom has been a great way to get a lot of people together, but nothing really beats being face to face and you know, being able to have a side conversation. And so we actually, as an organization, have started moving back to in-person meetings, and I am so glad.
The person is optimum, but Zoom meeting is better than nothing. And
Oh, absolutely. This has been a godsend.
People who would rather sit in front of the television and watch Netflix in the evening would not really think about going to a person-to-person meeting, but they might think about flipping on the TV and joining a Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
Okay, it's Bobby Sen.
Hi, I have a question. How do you have your type of organization in other states across the country?
So chambers of commerce are independently incorporated business associations. So there are chambers all over, and as I understand it, actually go back to ancient Babylon, where the first chamber was founded. So pretty much any place you will go, you will find a chamber of commerce. And they are, again, all independent. We are one of the few organizations that has organizations under our umbrella. That makes us very unusual. So each chamber has its own personality. And there is a U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We are a member of the U.S. Chamber. We were actually a founding member back in 1912. That a group of about 100 chambers from around the country came together to form the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and we were part of that group. So we work with them, but we do not work for them. And as I say, different chambers will stress different kinds of things, depending really on what their region is most in need of.
Thank you. So it's 11:34, and I think we have time for one more question, and there's one more hand raised. So Herb Waddell, you got the last question.
Well, last word. The chamber, of course, has many, many members with many, many highly skilled people with experience in many, many fields. Now, you are also mentoring young people. Do you, well, what sparked this question is I was sought out by a young Black female first-year Rutgers student who wanted to know how she could become a patent attorney. So she picked me out of the list, and I gave her some advice. I told her what the requirements were, and she immediately said, well, I'm no longer interested because I don't like math and science. Well, I said, well, what is it you want to do? And she said, I want to work in the entertainment field. I said, well, you can be an attorney without having math and science, and you can work with the entertainers as an attorney. And we had a long, pleasant conversation, and I never heard from her again, but that was. Now, do you do that? Do your mentors tap the expertise available in your membership organizations to help a young student get advice on careers?
Yes, I think that in general, the mentors who work with the scholarship recipients are more there to be a general mentor as opposed to a specific. You know, if one of them came back to me and said, this person needs to find a patent attorney, can you help them? Then, you know, if they couldn't do that directly, they would come to me and I would do it. But generally, where we're working here, it's very much kind of personal and life skills mentoring that goes on. You know, how to get people to like you so that you can get a promotion, so you can fit in. How important it is to keep learning things. You know, one of the things that we talk to all of these young people about is how important it is to show up on time, because that is a universal problem. Now, looking back to my youth, you know, in the hippie days in the late 60s and early 70s, I'm sure My parents' peers were complaining about the same thing. Oh, these guys never are on time. And, I think that all of these things, or a lot of these things work out with maturity. But people, if they screw up too much in the beginning, may not get enough chances to go forward. And they can get themselves into some pretty bad situations. And I know that one of the things that Alan has talked about with the people that he mentors is personal finances and how important it is to keep those in order, because it is, you can get yourself in debt by the time you're 20 that you can never dig out of. And, it's easy to do. So a lot of it is like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Alan Davison, it's your turn now to close the meeting out.
Okay, well, hopefully the connection will continue open. And Jim, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I just started to write that I'm really even more proud and happy to be a part of the Educational Committee and work for its efforts and a part of the association. And we'll just continue to work harder. And I hope that maybe some of my fellow Old Guards people will consider joining so that we can take advantage of their knowledge and education to help more of these young people. One of the things that the Old Guard does is it provides an orchid certificate of appreciation for what you have done. Joel has a copy of the certificate up. I have it and will be getting it to you. Maybe this afternoon I can come to Elizabeth or tomorrow. But thank you very much for everything. And we can all now give the Old Guard salute of lots of clapping hands.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
This has
thank
been a
you,
real pleasure
Jim.
for me.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Alan.